David Cameron has said Britain will never retreat from the world and it is in Europe's interests for the UK to stay in a reformed European Union. Speaking in Hamburg, the PM said changes he was seeking to UK membership would make Europe more outward-looking, competitive, and dynamic. In an upbeat speech, he said if he got what he wanted he would campaign unequivocally for the UK to stay in. Campaigners for EU exit have said the PM's renegotiation is a sham. The Prime Minister is hoping for a deal at next week's summit of EU leaders in Brussels to allow him to put the new terms of membership to the British public in a referendum in June. Island nation. But Donald Tusk, the European Council President who is brokering the talks on the UK's renegotiation process, has warned the political process remains very fragile, with some leaders still harbouring reservations about the plan, particularly over limits on welfare payments to new EU migrants. In his final major speech before next week's crunch meeting, Mr. Cameron told business, political civic leaders in the German city of Hamburg that he made no apology for Britain being argumentative and rather strong-minded when it came to the subject of Europe. We have the character of an island nation, independent, forthright, passionate in defense of our sovereignty, and of institutions that have served us well for many hundreds of years, he said. And the need to protect our sovereignty has always been paramount for us. But he told his audience at the Mahlzeit dinner, which included German Chancellor Angela Merkel, that Britain was an open nation and the values it shared with Germany underpinned their cooperation on trade, enterprise, and security, cooperation which he hoped would continue. Downing Street said the Prime Minister and Ms Merkel also held a meeting, agreeing that EU countries and institutions needed to continue to work together to reach a deal on the UK's renegotiation. In his speech, Mr. Cameron argued it was in the two countries' interests for the EU to become more competitive and for rules to be put in place to ensure that both countries inside the Eurozone and those outside could be mutually successful. When Britain says we need to have a Europe that respects nation-states and that we should be able to run our own welfare systems, those are calls which I believe resonate around Europe, he said. So if by working together we can achieve these changes, then I will unequivocally recommend that Britain stays in a reformed European Union on these new terms. Of course, if we can't then I rule nothing out. But I believe we can, and if we do, I believe we can win that referendum and that will be good for Britain, good for Germany and good for the whole of Europe. Negotiations on the final wording of the deal, which includes an emergency break on benefit payments to EU migrants and a UK opt-out from ever closer union, look set to carry on right up to the start of the summit on February 18. Speaking on Friday, French Finance Minister Michael Sapin warned that nothing in the deal could stand in the way of further Eurozone integration or confer special status on a particular industry, such as financial services. The UK is seeking legal protection for the City of London from new regulations that would apply across the whole of the EU, including non-Eurozone countries. But Mr. Sapin said no country could have a veto on further economic union or exemptions from the provisions of the single market. A senior Tory backbencher has said that up to 100 Conservative MPs could end up supporting the Out campaign in a future referendum, including a number of current cabinet ministers. More than 130 Conservative councillors have warned the Prime Minister risks splitting the party unless he accepts his renegotiation has failed and he campaigns for Britain to leave the EU.